So, Nature Conservation Society of Nashik was founded by Shri Vishwarup Raha. And we are a group of Nashik nature lovers, wildlife observers, trekkers, biologists, and conservationists with a shared vision and deep commitment for conservation of nature and environment. The NCSN team hopes to create not only awareness but affection for nature by involving public in general and children from urban and rural areas. The group started its activity since 1994 and we formally registered our NGO in the year 2000. Society has steadily extended its activity throughout the district. The society is involved in conservation of important wildlife areas scattered all over Nasik, particularly in rural areas. We have a website called as ncsn.org.in, so you can read more about us. We are associating with SARRP, that is, sorry, just a second. We are associating with the NGO called as Spreading Awareness on Reptiles and Rehabilitation Program. They are Mumbai-based NGO and they're working whole nationwide. So, and Yogesh is a volunteer of this NGO, and we have requested him to come today and speak about snakes. Yogesh is a naturalist and a photographer with special interest in birds and reptiles. He has done his master's in zoology and he is also a trained champion of boxer. Since his college years, he started working closely with Maharashtra Forest Department to mitigate conflict and spread awareness by actively participating in snake rescue and nature interpretation. He has volunteered in numerous programs, including rescuing snakes from charmers with Madhya Pradesh Forest Department, Sanjay Gandhi National Park Citizens Bird Survey by Maharashtra Forest Department, the Great Indian Bustard Assessment Survey at the Thar Desert by Wildlife Institute of India, and he has been contributing and contributor for organizations that is Oriental Bird Images, Canto, Vanya Digital Bird Guide, and he has been associated with SARRP, that is Spreading Awareness on Reptiles and Rehabilitation Program. So, and currently is working with Mumbai Metro. So, we are very honored to have Yogesh. Over to you. You can start your presentation. Thank you so much for accepting our request. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Pratiksha, for the wonderful introduction. Thank you all for coming here. I welcome you all. And I think I should waste no time and start with the presentation. So snakes are among the most feared animal on earth. And to know the reason why they are, we need to look into the Earth's history. So the Earth was formed about 4,600 million years ago, and the first snake arrived was in the Cretaceous period of Mesozoic era, which is between 144 to 65 million years ago. DNA and fossil evidences suggest that the snakes were already around when the first mammal evolved. Those mammals were smaller in size, and reptiles would extensively feed on those mammals. So mammals had to evolve and look for methods to protect themselves from reptiles. So some mammals highly developed into snake sniffers. They actually use their nose to check out for reptiles around. Some mammals created and developed more reflexes. Early primates, like early primates, they developed their eyes for better color vision, color detection, movement, and to see in 3 dimensions, straight, right, and left. And it would very well work in the closer area, closer range, and they could avoid reptiles. So in return, snakes had to develop something more, had to develop a weapon which will help them work more on this kind of prey. So early snakes used to be constrictor. They used to grab prey, kill it by forcing them to, preventing them to breathe like the modern pythons do. So it wasn't working well in the case of more developed mammals. So they developed venom, and this venom is quite like it was developed in 60 million years ago, and it worked very well on mammals. So the evolutionary arms raised continued, and so the fear of snakes in mammals continues. To understand snakes in a better way, I will take you to the scientific classification of snakes. So what you see here is the introduction and scientific classification of the animal kingdom for snakes. So snake is an animal. So all the animals are placed in kingdom Animalia. Snakes in their primitive life stage shows the presence of notochord, which will turn into spinal cord later on. So it is placed in phylum Chordata. Snakes, like we humans, also have a backbone, a vertebral column which supports their body. So it is placed in subphylum Vertebrata. Class Reptilia means all cold-blooded vertebrates held together. It includes snakes, crocodilians, tortoises, turtles, terrapins, etc. Order Squamata means the animal which has scales on their body. Those are also called as squamates. Suborder Serpents. So serpents are serpents is basically another name for snakes, limbless creature which crawls around. So the early snake came into existence and evolved from a burrowing lizard. They actually lost their limbs, and the reason why they lost their limbs, because they had to go into tricky places where lizards can't go. So the snakes eventually lost their limbs to get better food and better protection, which their sister species could not get, the lizards could not get. Snakes have lost their external ears. We have external ears, snakes do not. It's also called as tymphanum, and they are almost deaf to the airborne sounds, and they cannot hear. But they have well adapted in picking up vibrations from the ground, and their body does it for them. So they have a specialized jaw bones which will help them detect the vibrations coming from the direction, and they can move away. So snakes are
yeah.
Hello?
Sorry, someone had shared the screen. I request you again.
All right.
Share your screen. Yeah.
Okay. Can you see me? Hello?
Yes. Yeah, it's visible.
All right. Okay. So snakes are ectotherms, and also called as cold-blooded, because they cannot regulate their body temperature like we humans do. So in our case, when we feel warm, we sweat. When we feel cold, we shiver. But in case of snake, they are totally dependent on the surrounding temperature to maintain their own body temperature. All snakes are carnivores. They hunt down prey, and they rarely scavenge. Okay, most of these snakes lay egg, and those are called as oviparous. There are some snakes which give live birth to the young one, called as viviparous, and there are some short group of snakes which will keep the egg, the covering of the egg in their body, let them develop, and they will give birth to the live one, called as oviviparous. And snakes reproduce sexually, where the male and the female snakes come together, and the male gametes, the sperm is required for the fertilization of the egg. But there is asexual kind of reproduction in few snakes, called as parthenogenesis, and the best example for that is the worm snake, the blind snake. It measures hardly like 10 centimeter, less than that, and those are very similar to earthworm, but those are snakes, and they spend most of their life under soil, and they can be seen around in monsoon. Till date, there are only females been recorded. No male has been recorded in that species. So they have learned to develop their young ones without any help of the males. So this, I want you all to concentrate on this organ called as Jacobson's organ. It is also present in we humans, but it is not that sensitive compared to other animals. And in case of snakes, this organ is very important for them because they have a very blurred vision. They cannot see from a distance. and they are totally dependent on the pheromones they scent around to look for their area, look for their prey and predator, and keep themselves safe. So to pick up the scent from the air, they have the fork shaped tongue, and it helps them to take pheromones from the different direction from the flicking of the tongue. So what this snake does, it will flick out and take the pheromones on the tongue, take it back, pass on the message to the Jacobson's organ. The Jacobson's organ will pass on the message to the brain, and eventually the snake will come to know whether towards where it was heading is a safer place or a danger. All right. So this image is from Australia, and this species is called as carpet python. Like every animal are been affected by parasites, even snakes are affected by parasites. What you see on the face of the head of the snake are ticks which suck blood, and since snakes do not have limbs, they cannot pick it away on their own. Luckily, this snake was rescued by a rescuer, but there is a natural way where snakes can get rid of these parasites. They molt. The reason why they molt is they want to grow in size. They have a hard scale covering on their body, so they molt. And the younger the snake, the faster it will molt. The older the snake, it will take some time to molt, but it will molt eventually. So molting helps them get rid of these parasites. Snakes do not have eyelids. Like we have eyelids, snakes do not have eyelids. But snakes have a different protective layer on their eye. It is again a scale, a thin transparent scale, which helps them preventing dust, wind, and water to get in. So whenever we see a molting of a snake head, we see a cup-like in the molt. Snakes do play a vital role in the food chain to keep the population under control of smaller vertebrates like rats, frogs, and other organisms. So I will give you a classic example about snakes controlling the population. For example, we have a snake called as Indian rat snake, and it extensively feeds on rats. So if one rat snake feed on 2 rats per week, it will feed 8 rats per month, and if it feeds continuously, it will feed 96 rats per year. And say if the snake on an average survives for 10 years, so in its complete lifespan, it will feed on 960 rats. So just multiply that number into 10 lakh, because almost 10 lakh snakes should be in India of this species. So look at the amount of control they are doing, the pest control they are doing. So snakes play an important role in the food chain. If you remove snakes, the population of smaller vertebrates will increase. Okay, so snakes are found on all over the world, on every continent apart from Antarctica and islands like Iceland, Greenland, and New Zealand. Although New Zealand has some records of sea snakes rarely seen there, but there are no terrestrial snakes over there. So the world has about 3,000 plus species, and India has about 280 plus species till date. So if we see the percentage, India contributes about 9.33% of the world species population. In India, out of these 280 plus species, there are only 60 species which are venomous. So if we calculate the number, only 20% of Indian snakes are venomous, whereas the 80% are non-venomous. If we compare this data with Australia, so Australia has the complete opposite number, where the 80% of the snake population is venomous and 20% is non-venomous. Out of this 20% in India, which are venomous, only 4 snakes are known to take down more humans than any other snake. There was a recent comment from WHO that India is estimated to have 2.8 million snake bites and snake bite cases, and out of that 2.8 million, 90% of the snake bites were due to Big Four. And what is Big Four? I'll tell you in the next slide. So since we work in Mumbai, so I will give an example of Mumbai. So Mumbai has about 40 snake species, including all Big Four snakes. Okay, so the first one amongst the Big Four is the Russell's viper. Then we have Indian spectacled cobra. Then we have saw-scaled viper and common crate. These are the four snakes which are responsible to take down more humans than any other venomous snake in India. So they are medically important snakes for India because most of the anti-venom is also produced with the help of their venom. Okay, so these are some major families which we can see in India among snakes. So I have divided into two, non-venomous and mildly venomous. The reason why I'm saying mildly venomous along with the non-venomous because their venom is not that potent to take down humans. Humans are large animals. Their venom is only like it can take down smaller vertebrates like lizards and rats, mice, and frogs around. And on the other hand, we have venomous. So Colubridae is a family which is non-venomous and it includes rat snake, killbacks, wolf snakes, etc. Boidae includes pythons and boas. Homolostidae includes marsh snakes. On the other hand, venomous has Viperidae, which includes pit vipers and vipers. Elapidae includes cobras and kraits. Hydrophidae includes true sea snakes, which will have laterally compressed tail, which helps them swim. The true sea snakes, which are not terrestrial, and they will require sea to for their survival, water for their survival. Okay. So this is something serious because identification is not a one day's process, and I'm sure no one is going to learn identification in one day. It requires lots of observation, practice, and years of going into the field and watching for snakes. And still, one can make mistake in identifying snakes. So here are some of the keys which I would like to share. Okay, identifying species with the location as a key. This is a very important factor because I do rescue snakes in Mumbai, and whenever I get a call, I ask for the location first, and people, if they describe that there's a python-like snake in a urbanized area, so first thing comes to my mind is Russell's viper because people usually think Russell's viper to be a python, and we are already prepared by keeping the location in the mind. Identifying species with color as a key. So this is applicable for only specific species, and it can vary. It can morphologically vary, but still it is a key. For example, if you see a green killback, there are some striking colors on it. The juvenile has some striking color on it. The bamboo viper, it's green in color. The vine snake is green in color. It will have some difference in the shade, but the color will be quite visible, and it should be a key, but only applicable for specific species. Identifying species with the marking as key. So in the background, the image which you see, it is one of the chain of Russell's viper. So these are some of the marking which are very important. And although there can be morphological differences in shades, but the marking is still there, and it can play a vital role in identification. Also in the case of common crate, where we have bands, same with wolf snakes, and same with stripe killback, where you can see stripe, a marking on it, and it can still vary. Identify species with head, body, and tail shape and size as key. So if I go out for a rescue, and forget about rescue, if I'm not rescuing a snake, but I still see a snake with only its tail out, nothing else, and I have to identify it. So keeping the shape of the body part in mind, we can still identify snake, but it will still require a lot of practice and observation. Identify species with scale count method. So this was the very early stage of morphologically identifying snake species, and this from here all the and
Yogesh?
hello, yeah.
Yeah, you were not audible for 2 seconds, I guess. You can continue.
Okay, what did I miss? Can you tell me, please?
You can continue with the last point. Just
Right.
2 seconds, you were not audible. Yeah.
All right. So identifying species with scale count as a key. So this is from here, the methods which I'm going to tell you is only applicable for researchers and scientists, because those are the one which will be handling snakes. and it is highly not recommended to do a scale count on your own unless and until you have someone observing you, some experienced person. And here we have some data from earlier scientists who did a scale count, and then we can conclude it into identify it as a species. We have another key called as dentition as a key, where teeth has to be counted, and for this sacrificing a snake is needed, so it is not recommended. Nowadays we have lots of preserved specimens, and we have new techniques where people will take an X-ray of the skull, and they can do a scale do a teeth count for the species and identify it. The most accurate method in today's date is DNA. DNA barcoding is important, where two snakes resemble each other and they are morphologically identical. Also, their scale count matches. So here DNA plays a vital role, and lots of new species are coming out in the country because of the DNA technique, DNA method. Okay, so I'm not here to teach you scale count, but I want you all to have a look at this scale here. It is called as L'Oreal scale, and it is present between preocular and the nasal scale here. So all these scales which you see around has different names. You can have a look here. And all I want you to know is about this scale. It plays a vital role in the Indian snakes. So if the presence of this scale is seen, so this snake would be a non-venomous, because it is only present in non-venomous snakes. And if the scale here is absent, where the preocular is in direct contact with nasal scale, then those should be called the kraits and the cobras, the elapides, the venomous ones. Also, I want you to keep this scale in mind here. You see this scale here? Keep this in mind. I'll tell you. Okay, so this is the dorsal view of one of the snake, and there are three ways you can count the scales. So when I say dorsal, which means that the upper body of the snake, which is facing the sky, is a dorsal view. So one can start counting in zigzag manner, this way. One can draw an imaginary center line on the snake, and you can start counting, like you can go up till here, mid body, then go again down. But the most accurate method in here is start in a single line and end up on the other end and stop on the under end. So from 1 to 17. Again, to do this count, you have to make the scale count on three different parts of the snake's body, starting from the neck to the mid body, and right above the anus, the anal area, right above the anal area on the dorsal side. So suppose if the neck count is about 10, so we write in this manner: 10:17:12, and we compare this data with other snakes and we differentiate. These are the ventral side. The scales which you see is the on a snake facing the ground on the ventral side. So remember, I showed you one image here. So this count starts from here on the lower head, here on the belly. It will continue till the belly. So counting starts from the below the chin, and it will end up here, right before the anal scales here. Same here, and it can vary. It will be the counts will be above 80, 90, 100 and plus. And these are the anal scale here. It can be complete. In this case, it can be complete, and it can be divided on the other side. And the scales here on the tail are called as subcaudals. It can be completed. It can be complete scales, or it can be divided. Depends upon the species. For example, if I talk about Russell's viper, they have a divided scale here. If I talk about Indian rat snake, it has a divided subcaudals. If I talk about Indian spectacle cobra, it has divided. But when I talk about common krait or kraits found in India, it will have complete subcaudals. Apart from one krait, which is called as Himalayan krait, Himalayan kraits will have these divided subcaudals. So whatever source is available on the internet is not all correct, where you see that the undivided are venomous and the divided are non-venomous. I just gave you a few examples of divided subcaudals were venomous, like Russell's viper and spectacle cobra. Okay, so the red dot which you see here of course you would have understood that this is a venomous snake, and this is a Russell's viper, one of the big four found in India, and you can identify it from a distance. When the snake is hissing, it will make a pressure cooker like sound from a distance. If you are too close, then it won't bother to make sound. It will directly strike. Now how to identify it? You can see the triangular head. All vipers will show triangular head, and it will have mixed scale on its head. What you see here is the chain-like pattern which runs throughout its body on the dorsal side. The body of the snake is quite stocky. The head is smaller in size, and it has a very short tail. And these are ambush hunter, ambush predator, and they are mostly nocturnal. The snake here which you see again has a triangular head, mixed scales on the head, again chain-like pattern, stocky body, short tail, but a non-venomous one. Because this is a common sand boa, it has tried to mimic a Russell's viper because it does not have venom. So for its protection, it has morphologically mimicked a Russell's viper, but it's a non-venomous. It's a constrictor. It will grab its prey, choke it down, and kill it. Okay, so most of the Russell's viper bite is due to this snake, because people usually grab a Russell's viper thinking that they have caught a rock python. But trust me, if a full-grown rock python is seen, no one will ever make mistake. But if a young one is seen, then people do make mistakes, because the young Indian rock python is very similar to a Russell's viper. So here's the comparison of all three species. The top one is the venomous one, the Russell's viper, and the below two are the non-venomous. The next one is the Indian spectacle cobra, and we can easily say it to be a cobra because of its raised hood. And people do mistake this snake that it will strike only when the hood is raised, which is not true. They can still strike when they are at rest, and they can kill a human very well. So this snake resembles, it is quite different, but still people mistake this snake with spectacle cobra, and they think that this is a female cobra, which is not true. This is an Indian rat snake, a dhaman, and it truly feeds on rats, and it's a non-venomous species. Here you see there is a presence of loreal scale, the nasal scale, the preocular, and the loreal scale. So this scale will be absent in case of pythons, in case of spectacle cobras. The comparison of both of them. Okay, so we have another venomous snake called as common krait. It is called as manyar in local language, and it is a highly nocturnal species, and it has small fangs, and again a neurotoxic venom. What you see here, it has a U-shaped snout, and when you see on the dorsal side, it has hexagonal scales here, which is only specific to this species. And hexagonal scales are also seen in arboreal snakes like cat snakes and bronzeback tree snakes. It can be seen there. So here it is black in color, and the banding starts from post neck. You see the neck here, it will start from post neck and continue till the end of the tail. The white bandings will continue to the end of the tail. There's another snake which resembles common krait, which is called as wolf snake, and the reason why they are called as wolf snake because they chase down their prey, and this is a non-venomous species. The snout which you see here is V shape, not the U shape, which was in case of common krait, but here you see it's a V shape. The banding will start from head and it will just end before tail. In the case of krait, it will continue till the tail and start somewhere from here. Okay, this is a common kukri. Although it looks quite different, but people do mistake this with krait, and people do grab a krait thinking that they have grabbed a kukri. And this is again a non-venomous snake, and the reason why it's called as kukri because it has a kukri, the weapon-like teeth in its jaw, which helps them take down prey. Have a look. Have a compare. We have compared here the common krait, common wolf snake, and the common kukri. Okay, this is amongst the smallest of the big four, but the venom is highly potent. What you see here is the saw-scaled viper. You can see the mixed scales it has on its head. The scales will be rough, keeled, and these are ambush hunters. So they will not shoo away easily. They will wait for their predator, and most of the snake bite happens because they don't move away, like kraits and cobras does. They wait. Vipers do wait. So this is an arboreal snake where the pattern resembles almost like a saw-scaled viper, but these are non-venomous. These are mildly venomous, but the venom is not potent for humans. It will only subdue and take down smaller vertebrates and invertebrates. This is a common cat snake. Okay, so I have used a diagram here. This diagram is of some cat snake, and this diagram is of a saw-scaled viper. So when you see the head of a saw-scaled viper, it will have tiny scales on the head. All vipers will have tiny scale on the head. Whereas when you see this head of the cat snake, it will have shield scales. The scales will be larger in size on the head. So this is a key character to identify if you are at a close distance. I wish you should not be at a close distance to a saw-scaled viper, but these are the major differences in both of these species. And saw-scaled viper are highly terrestrial. They will be found on ground. They occasionally climb up trees, but they are usually seen on ground. And the arboreal snake, the common cat snake, is usually seen on the trees. Okay, so the snake which you see here with a red dot is of course a venomous snake, a pit viper, because it has a pit between the nostril and the eye. So this pit helps this snake to create an infrared, the thermal image of a warm-blooded animal like a mammal moving around. So the snake can easily pick up the temperature from the mammal moving around and create an infrared thermal image out of it, because their vision is quite blur. So here we have the two snakes which are green in color, but the other one is not that fatal for humans. It has some venom, but not potent for humans. It's a green vine snake, also called as common vine snake. Now you see two snakes here on the other side. One is brown in color, the other one is grayish in color. We can easily mistake this snake as two different species, but they are not. They are one single species called as Forsten's cat snake, one of the largest cat snake found in India. And again, they are mild and they can take down smaller prey easily. Their venom is not fatal, potent for humans, on humans. Okay. So there are cases where the young snake is very different from the adults. So what we see here on the bottom right is a juvenile green keelback, which has striking color on it, and I believe this is for the protection of a younger snake. And when it turns old, these markings will go down automatically. And this is an adult one on the left top here, adult green keelback. It's called as Gautia in local language. It's a non-venomous species. Okay, where can we find snakes? So snakes can be found at all tricky places, including I think someone mic on. Hello. Okay.
Yeah, continue.
Okay. So where can we find snakes? Snakes can be found at all tricky places, including a car's bonnet. These are checkered keelback into the car bonnet, and the reason why they go there, because they are cold-blooded and they look for warm places. And if a long distance run car is parked in a garage, it will have some temperature in it, and which is very comfortable for a snake to reside there. Okay, this is something which we will never expect to be in our house. A rock python was found in a toilet in Bandup, near Bandup residence, which was rescued by NGO there. And snakes do like to move in streams. Earlier, we used to have natural streams where the heavy-bodied animal would swim in through it, the snakes. But nowadays, all we have is the drainage system. So snakes do venture into drainage system and ends up in one's house. Laying old debris, wooden logs can be another place where we can see snakes, which can also be found in one's shoe. So I have rescued one of the Indian rat snake from 14th floor of a tower. So I can expect snakes everywhere. Okay, what to do if we encounter a snake? Maintain distance. Let it go if possible. Snakes will never come on its own and harm us. Don't panic, do not kill. This is very important. No handling, no touching. Call a rescuer if you want to get rid of snakes. Call a rescuer, they will rescue the snake, but rescuing is not the solution. We have to learn to survive with snakes. In case beaten, click a picture. This is just for your reference. Don't try and do that. Best thing is to rush to the government hospital, and by no wasting time, just keep them in mind how does the snake looks like and rush to the government hospital. Okay, reason for snake bites. So these are some of the reasons where we accidentally encounter a snake and get a bite out of it, get bitten by a snake. So snakes are ectotherms, cold-blooded. When the weather is not favorable outside, they tend to get into human residence and be there for a while. And this could end up with a snake bite. Most of the people in rural areas, they sleep on floor. They cannot manage to have a bed, so they sleep on the floor. And a sleeping human, the temperature of a sleeping human is favorable for snakes sometimes. So snakes do slither into bed sheets, and human can get a bite out of it. Very poorly lit areas can be another reason for snake bites, where we have like darker areas where we have snakes and we are roaming around and we have no idea, and we get bitten by it. Moving around barefoot, where again it is correlated with the darkness, and when we have snakes around, we should take proper precautions, especially in the rural areas. And wherever you hear about snakes, wear footwears. Poor waste management can be another reason for snake bites. In Mumbai, we have places where people in societies where people dump their food waste, and it attracts pests, and eventually the pest attracts snakes, and snake bite can be one of the reasons due to poor waste management. Some more reasons. So we live in a era where we have taught animals to use toilet, but we ourselves go out in the for the purpose of toilet, and we can end up having a snake bite there. Okay, this is something I think everyone should talk about, that farming is equally important. Farmers are equally important, and so is the agriculture. And agriculture needs to be done with proper precautions, because there are pests in the field, and to control the pest, we have snakes, and accidentally we get bitten by the snakes there. Okay, so people do like to hang around in the woods, and this can be one of the reason for snake bite. Okay, so imagine people having good time in the forest, and so is the snake having good time in the forest, and this can end up in the as a result of one of the result of snake bites. Okay, so earlier what I showed you was the accidental cases of snake bite, and it can happen, but these are something which we have asked for a bite. So some people engage in doing stunts like this, and they get bitten by a snake trying to take selfie with cobras. So these are the different category of people. They rescue snake, they take it to a location and try and do stunts with snakes, and they eventually get beaten and they die. Okay, so by looking at this caption, the first thing that would have come to our mind would have been the Bollywood star here, Imran Hashmi, but we have somewhere more advanced than Imran Hashmi here. Okay, so kissing snakes was a trend. He's still a trend in India, and people do try it. But one fine day, if a snake tries and kisses us back, we end up. So this guy is no more. He's passed out. He's passed away, and one of the cobra bit him on the lip, and he is no more. People do date snakes. This young guy here is holding 4 full-grown Russell's viper around its neck. This guy is talking to a Indian spectacle cobra in a very close range, just one leap away from one strike away. So unnecessary handling is something that we have to avoid, and the media should stop promoting such images. Okay, so this gentleman here has rescued like many snakes, which is a good thing, but posting and posing for such images will eventually encourage young people coming in, new people coming into the field, thinking that if I grab a snake, I will be famous, and I can see myself in newspaper. But this is a wrong message. And you see a full-grown Russell's viper head grabbed. You can see the fangs. So I think this is something we should avoid. Okay, angel or demon. So there was a recent, like 2-3 years back, there was a video which went viral. Some rescuers, along with forest department, they had a bag full of snakes, which they must have rescued. And rescuing also needs some scientific background. Rescuers should have some scientific background. So if you capture a snake from its current environment, if you release it out of its range, it is eventually going to die, because the change in habitat, the change in temperature, the change in territory, it is a slow death for the snake. So in this case, this person has a bag full of snakes, and there are multiple species, not only one species, multiple species, and they took it to the forest and released all of them together. And I'm sure most of these snakes would have died easily out of stress. So this is something we need to avoid. So more scientific people needs to be involved, and train and educate the rescuers around will help to avoid this. So what is venom? Okay, so venom is a complex protein, and it is basically a protein, highly modified complex protein, and it is produced somewhere here. Here we have a venom gland here, which is connected with the secondary duct, and the secondary duct is connected with the primary duct, and and at the end it will come out from the fangs. We have a specialized muscles here called as compressor muscle, and it works really fast. It will work as fast as the blink of our eye, and the venom will only affect anyone when it's injected in the bloodstream. Since the venom is a protein, if I have a small bottle of protein venom, if I drink it, and if I does not have any cut anywhere in my digestive tract, in my mouth, the venom will get digested. But if it goes into my bloodstream, then it will affect me. So these are some type of venom. So the first one is neurotoxic venom. It will affect our nervous system. It will prevent the cells in the nervous system. It won't let the message go from the brain to the complete body. It will prevent it. Then we have hemotoxic, where the red blood cells are being affected in the bloodstream, and the clotting of blood will not happen, and the blood pressure will go down. Cytotoxic is something related to myotoxic itself. So in case of cytotoxic, it will affect our cells, and in case of myotoxic, it will affect our muscles. Okay, so from here to a couple of slides, the images will be disturbing, and the results of snake bite can be very like fatal, and it can highly cost to a family. This is one of the result of snake bite. Okay, picking up symptoms of snake bite is very important. Here, when we see, we have what we see here is the bleeding gum is a result of a soft scale viper bite. On the other hand, we see the same symptom, bleeding gum, from the result of a Russell's viper bite. Although both of these are vipers, their symptoms are quite similar, but it is not true always. Here, this guy is bitten by a soft scale viper. The guy in the middle here is bitten by a common krait, and the last person here is bitten by a Russell's viper. I want you to focus on the eyes here. All of these three bitten by three different snakes showing similar symptoms. So this is called as bilateral ptosis, where they lose their control of eyelids. So picking up symptoms is very important. And while picking up symptoms, I would suggest anyone who is bitten by snake not to waste time, quickly rush to the government hospital for further treatment and tests. Okay. So these are some of the symptoms which we can see, but if we have to rush to the government hospital for better treatment, and the doctor in the hospital will do tests like WBCT, which is whole blood clotting test, and ELISA, which is enzyme linked immunosorbent assay test, which is used worldwide, which is extensively used now, and it can detect up to 0.5 nanogram of venom. So it is quite accurate. In case we are bitten, never do this. Never ever tie your arm or anything. Always remove the tight substance around your hands, like wristwatch, rings, the bands which you have. Remove it. Never wash your hand with soap and stuff. You can use water, but never waste time. Never try things like alum. Never experiment yourself. Never try things like alum. Never cut, because there are chances that we have a dry bite, but we have some venom around our finger. If I'm bitten on a finger, but it has not injected into my bloodstream, I'm still safe. But if I make a cut thinking that I'm bitten, the blood will come in contact with venom and it will eventually affect me. In case of snake bite, allow the person to relax, calm him down. Do not let him or her go unconscious. Tap on the face, let them be conscious. Keep the time track. Time track is more important. Call the ambulance if needed. Never let the person eat or drink anything, because if the person is conscious, there are chances that the person likely go unconscious very soon. So whatever the person has fed upon, since we have a common tube, the digestive tube and the air tube we have common here, there are chances that the fluid will come back and run into the lungs and the person may die. In case the person feels dizzy and gets unconscious, look for the signals, look for the veins, whether the heart is beating properly, whether the person is able to breathe, and if you see any difference in the breathing or the heartbeat, directly go to do CPR. CPR is a first aid, and it's a very important tool in the recent time. It can save life, and I will give you an idea how to do CPR. CPR is something called as cardiopulmonary resuscitation, and it is basically giving artificial breathing and artificial pressure to the heart and forcing heart to pump blood to the complete body. A person, no matter a person is bitten by a snake or a person is dying due to heart attack, CPR is very helpful in that case, because a person will.
Yogesh, so sorry. Can you again share your screen?
All right. Can you see it, Pratiksha?
Yes, I can see.
All right. So no matter if a person is a snakebite victim or a heart attack patient, CPR will help him survive for a couple of hours till we get medical help. And any person will always die out of complication, whether the heart stops beating or the lungs fail to supply oxygen to the blood. So what we do in this case, we make the person lay, we pull the tongue out, because if a person is unconscious, the tongue will drop down to somewhere here and it will choke the person eventually. So the method of doing CPR, tilt the chin to the sky direction, go on the right of the person, on the right side of the person, look for the bone somewhere here in the middle of the chest, look for the bone which is right above the heart, called as sternum bone, and make this kind of fist using both your hands, and use this part on the sternum here. Make sure you are not too low, not too high, somewhere here where the two part of the rib cage has been fused together, called as sternum bone. And the very important thing in India, I would like to share with you, make sure and be aware about the gender. Before doing it to a female, be aware of the gender, because if you have some idea about CPR, ask a female to do the CPR on a female. Don't go and try it on your own, because it can end up in a worse situation for yourself. Okay, so make this kind of fist, keep your shoulders straight, get down on the sternum bone and start pumping it. So how many times do we need to do? 30 times. 30 times fast and hard. 30 times we need to press it here, compress the chest region, so and make sure that the pressure is high, and it will let the blood flow through the complete body. And now go, if you're done with 30 of these compressions, go to the mouth, grab the nose, pinch the nose, open the mouth and blow the air inside. When you're blowing the air, make sure you see the chest going up and going down. Do it twice. So the ratio on what you have to do is like 30 compressions and 2 mouth-to-mouth breathing per minute till we get further medical help. If you do this, you can keep the victim alive for a couple of hours till we get medical help, and this is very important. Supply of oxygen and supply of blood to the body is very important. Although the patient is unconscious, he will be still survive. It can still survive. Okay, one such case we can see here. This lady was bitten by a common krait. So common kraits are the snake which have neurotoxic venom, and they affect the nervous system. So the venom will cut down the connection of the brain to the body, and the lungs will slowly start collapsing. So in this case, CPR is very important. So she was taken to a hospital where there was no ventilator available. So there is something called as ambu bag. You can see here the ambu bag. So this lady was made to breathe artificially using an ambu bag, and till the further help was given to the medical help was given to the lady, she survived because of this ambu bag. So keeping a patient alive on the providing a breathing for the patient is very important for the survival of that patient. What is antivenom? Antivenom is basically antibodies created out of venom. And how do we do it? Collection of venom is important from a snake. Then small amount of venom is been injected in horses, because horses are the mammals which have very high immunity, and in response to the venom which is injected to the horse, the antibodies have been created, and these antibodies can be used as an antivenom in other mammals like we humans. So in India, we have something called as polyvalent antivenom. So no matter which venomous snake is bitten, we can use this polyvalent antivenom. It has some side effects, but it is still helpful to save one's life. In India, the big four, Russell's viper, saw-scale viper, common krait and spectacle cobra, are not found in Northeast India and on the islands, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. They are not there. But still, patients which are bitten by venomous snakes found there, these kind of antivenoms are used to save their life. So it still works. Okay, snake repellent, if any. Sadly, there are no snake repellents, and nothing works on snakes. We have to keep our area clean. That is the only thing which is suggested, or call a rescuer to rescue the snake, because there is no snake repellent available. Okay, what we Indians think about snakes: revenge, music, dance, milk, gem, money, black magic, two-headed, and passing on false information, etc. Okay, so the most developed brains are seen in mammals, then it goes to the aves, birds, and reptiles. So snakes do not have much of the memory to much of the developed brain to memorize anyone's face. It will require a memory card. Okay. Now, what you see in this image are the two king cobras battling to save their territory. And how did they two come together? It is because of the pheromones. Unlike we humans, we go out and speak, show emotions. Snakes cannot do that. So snakes have something, they can release pheromones to attract mate, to give out pheromones and fight other snake to save their territory and mate. So snakes cannot remember things, cannot capture any images like we Indians think that snake comes and take revenges. They don't. I'll give you an example. If I'm going out in the woods and if I have a stick in my hand, if I see a snake, I kill the snake, take that same stick, keep it in my house. Now the stick has some pheromones because I've hit the snake with the stick. So the pheromones will attract other snakes which I have kept in my house, and this will lead to other snake moving around my house, and I think that the snake is here for revenge because I killed another snake. This is all myth. Okay, music, dance. So this is the famous instrument, also called as bin, can be called as pungi. People do ask me when I go to rescue snakes, "Arey, aap bin nahi laye?" Unfortunately, I have to say them, no, I don't use bin to call out snakes because snakes cannot hear. This gentleman here is making three cobras dance on its music. Same thing I am doing with a black bag. So this kind of people, they will only use cobras for their dance purpose because only cobras are the snakes which are tend to raise their hood when they have some movement in front of them. So they are still fooling us. Milk. All right. So snakes do not produce milk, so they are incapable of digesting milk. Only humans and mammals which have mammary glands can produce milk and has the capability of digesting the milk. So why is the snake here drinking milk? We have to, so from the day of Nag Panchami, we have to go back like 3-4 months back and look into the matter. So if I am a snake charmer, I go out, look for the snake in the wild, grab the snake, I break off its fangs, I puncture the venom gland, I burn its mouth, I staple it, I stitch it, and I keep it starving for 3-4 months. Now, if me as a snake who is starving for 3-4 months, if I am offered by a milk, I am forced to drink the milk. Even though I don't like milk, I am forced to drink the milk because I am so thirsty, I am so hungry, and the snake feeding on milk will eventually die. So one such incident, one such program was arranged by Madhya Pradesh Forest Department in Indore city, and on Nag Panchami. It was back in 2014 when I went there, and we with Forest Department, we volunteered for Forest Department, and we captured about 700 cobras in a day. From morning 6:30 to evening 5, we captured about 700 cobras in a single day. So what you see here, the basket, the basket, it has about 3 to 4 cobras each in it each. Gem. Okay, so also India is also famous for the Nagmani. The serials which promote this, I myself used to see a serial in my childhood called as Nagin, and now I laugh on myself. Okay, so media should play a vital role in this. Instead of promoting such myths, they should show something which is a fact. So they are showing Nag money, which is nowhere found. And the gentleman here on the right, here on the right below, is selling a Nag money. From where he's getting, I don't know, but I know the reason for, I know the process. How do they do it? So they take a stone which is freely available in the surrounding, make a cut on the head of the cobra, insert the stone into the scale. Like other body parts, the scale and the skin will also heal up on its own. Now the person is ready to take the snake, go out and sell it to some layman. What they will do, they will go and tell people that I have an Nag money. If you're interested to buy it, I will cut it and remove it in front of you, and you will be rich. So they sell it for like 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, and so on. So again, they make a cut, remove the stone, wrap it in a paper, and sell it to people, all free. Only the organism which is facing problem is snakes, not the humans. Money black magic two-headed. What we see here is a red sand boa. It is a snake from dry region, and it has a head here and a tail which is very similar to its head. So it has adapted in such a way, when it is exposed to a threat or a predator, it will hide its head under its body and expose its tail here. Expose it. So if a predator comes and tries to hunt on the snake, it is actually hunting the tail, not its head. But we, as a human, we saw it, and we do very we caught the snake. We have caught the snake, and we make face using a needle on the tail, and we sell it by saying that this snake has two head, and it moves from one day on using one's head for 6 months, and it will move using the other head for another 6 months. So police have seized this person, and luckily he has gone to jail. Passing on false information. What we see here is a king cobra. It's an actual image. Nothing is wrong with this image. Okay, this is something which can happen naturally. One snake can be born with two heads, and they cannot survive till their adulthood because both the heads are confused and they fail to eat. Unless and until you force them to eat, they will fail to eat on their own, and they will die out of starvation. Now, if you have seen the earlier image carefully, it had only one head, but now Photoshop made it 3 heads. Okay, someone made it with 7 heads. Okay, a complete fan. So this is something which we can avoid. False messages everywhere. It's our choice how we have to pick it. Okay, I'll just have a sip of water. Okay, so SERP India is basically a Mumbai-based NGO spreading awareness on reptiles and rehabilitation program. We have about more than 150 volunteers in this NGO, all coming from different fields. And we have IT professionals, we have doctors, we have veterinary doctors, we have students, and all sorts of professionals we have, and all working together for a common purpose to educate people for rescue, making data, submitting data to the forest department, and keeping them updated with the daily rescues. So this is something we did last year. So this is a rescue report of 2019. So in 2019, we rescued 1712 animals, and the maximum of it was reptiles, contributing 94%, 1.29% were mammals, and 4.38% were birds. Out of this, 94% of reptiles, big fours were 549, and the spectacle cobra was the maximum in number, 408. Russell's viper were 120, sawscale viper were 3, common kraits were 18. So this is the big 4 list of snakes which we rescued last year. This is the annual report of 2018. Last year's report is under process and will be out very soon by the end of this year. So in 2018, we rescued and rehabilitated 2,082 animals, 240 birds, 178 reptiles, 56 mammals. Apart from rescuing, we also indulge in mega awareness drives for school, colleges, corporates. We also take part in tree plantation drives, save bird campaigns. We also rescue birds during the save bird camping drive, which is mostly during Makar Sankranti when people usually fly kites. We also do cleanup drives. So in 2018, we did 17 cleanup drives. In 2018, we rescued 519 big fours, where the spectacle cobra were maximum. After spectacle cobra, we had Russell's viper, then followed by common krait, followed by saw scale viper. To maintain the data, our NGO has developed an app, the internal app for rescuers, so that they can rescue a snake and on spot they can log in and update their data, and which can be compiled and submitted to the forest department later on. So there's a login ID and password. GPS coordinates are there, which can be updated right in from the place where they have rescued. Automated update of time and drop down list of species is there. The reporting system this reporting system will reduce time of data entry and focus on data analysis, which is very important. So these are some of the things which our NGO does. And if we have Facebook page, we have Instagram ID, we have Twitter ID, and these are the numbers which you can note down if you wish, and they are 24/7 available for rescues. We rescue all wild animals. All right. If you have any doubts or questions, you can ask me.
Yes. Thank you, Yogesh. It was a very, very elaborate, very informative presentation. Thank you so much for giving your time and sharing such crucial information with everyone. I think it's need of an hour. We all must educate about snakes and threats around and what is our duty in order to save them. So thank you very much. We open this platform for question and answer. If you want to ask anything to Yogesh, if any particular slide you want to see again, you can request him. You can also write your questions in the chat box. I can read it out to you.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Yogesh. A wonderful presentation. I'm Mrs. Pandey, talking from Nagpur. I'm a teacher.
All right.
And basically, I have joined this webinar for my children.
All right.
Am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you very well.
Yeah. Actually, the place where my school is, it's a very beautiful place.
Okay.
But the only thing is that the place is like there are lots of snakes, often found, often seen. It's a very common sight. So I agree with you. They are also a part of nature. They are a very important part of nature. But from my point of view, being a teacher, about the safety of my children, being a lay person, what I should do. Actually, I want to share an incident with you. There was an incident when a teacher was teaching in pre-primary class, like LKG, UKG, and the children were inside the class. The teacher was teaching and she saw a snake entering in the class. So she stood in between the snake and the children. And she herself was very much frightened, but she didn't leave the place. So, like, then the situation was managed later on. But my question is, like, being lay person, and about the safety of our children, what we should do at that time if we face such a situation.
Okay.
Yogesh, just a second before you answer. Can you just say stop presenting on your slide?
All right.
Yeah, so that everyone can be able to see you. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So in this case, it was a close encounter, right?
Yeah, yeah, and she was very much frightened. She cried actually later on.
Yeah, it happens because if a person who has never seen a snake and
Yeah.
ends up encountering a snake too close to us, and so in this case, I would suggest not to do sudden movements.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but it does not mean that you have to stay there and wait for the snake to strike, because even if
Mm-hmm.
the snake uh, gets to know that there is some larger animal like we humans around, they will strike. So first is just to keep calm and not to do sudden movement. Keep
Okay.
younger like kids around, away from the place, and always let
Mm-hmm.
the snake move in the darker area, because snakes will always go in the darker area compared to the lit
Mm-hmm.
area. So if there is a darker area in the classroom, you can always stand into the lightning area and let the snake go into the darker area, because snakes will always
Mm-hmm.
go to the darker place to
Mm-hmm.
find shelter.
Okay. Anything else that we can do? Like we are
So
not trained people.
yeah, so you
Okay,
can.
and
Okay, sorry.
we are not trained people, and lots of kids are around. So what we can do? Anything else you
Your
would
your
like to
location
suggest?
is your location is Nagpur, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. So the best thing would be you check out for some NGOs which are working there, especially
Okay.
the rescuers which are available there. And
Mm-hmm.
in these cases, you can call the rescuer and get the snake rescued.
Okay. Thanks a lot. It was a wonderful session.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, Yogesh, there are some questions for you in the chat box.
Yeah. Okay.
Should I read them out for you?
Yeah, yeah. I can see. Kindly note the session is being recorded. All right.
Okay, so one question is why most snakes are non-venomous? It's one question from Tushar.
Okay.
This
So developing a venom uh, is again depends upon the success rate of predator. So if a snake is comfortable and easily taking down prey without a venom, it did not tend to adapt well. So it did not wanted to develop or adapt venom. Use these its rest of the energy for some other purpose. Like it will, for example, rat snakes, they do not have venom, but they are very fast in movement. So they know they are speedy. They know they can chase down prey. So they do not tend to adapt to be a venomous snake, because if a venomous snake, if you see venomous snake, they are more slow, sluggish, and they give more energy in production of venom. So the adult snake will never tend to lose venom, whereas the younger snake will always put venom in larger quantity. So adults are cautious that the venom is they have to preserve venom, because venom production will require more energy. So I think this is the reason why not they are less venomous snake compared to non-venomous snake in India.
All right. The next question is from Vaishnavi. How to identify whether it's a venomous or a non-venomous from a long distance?
Again, it would be a tricky. If you are used to watching snakes, you will be easily able to identify from a distance. But again, if you are very new to this field, it will require some time, because from a distance it's really difficult to identify snake. People do mistake by observing snake from a distance, and snakes are misidentified.
All right. Pratik is asking, can we identify snakes based on their eyes?
We do, yeah, because some snakes will have round pupil, which are mostly diurnal in nature, like cobras have round pupil, kraits have round pupil, and snakes where we have a slit, vertical pupil, are vipers and cat snakes, which have a vertical pupil, where the pupil looks very much like a cat's eye. And we have a snake called as vine snakes, where the pupil is horizontal, facing forward, because those are arboreal snakes. So by looking their eyes, we can still identify snake.
All right. The next question is from Ganesh. Is there a directory of snake rescuers? For example, if there is a snake to be rescued in some area, whom to contact or find the person who we can call for help in the particular area.
Okay. This will be little time consuming, because there are small NGOs and organizations working on a smaller area, and so this requires lots of references. Like if I'm in Mumbai and if I want to help someone in Nasik, I have to contact my NGO to see if there are some contacts from Nasik, and maybe the call can be transferred to them. But there is a Facebook page called as Indian Snakes, and if you drop a comment on that page that I need a rescuer in so and so area, I'm sure people will help you with the contact for that particular region.
Also, I would like to add that there is a forest department helpline. The number is 1926.
Yeah.
So probably calling that helpline can guide you with the rescuer's number.
Yes.
Yes. Vaishnavi is asking, can snakes bite in underwater?
They do. We have sea snakes. They hunt underwater, and snakes like checkered keelbacks and like most keelbacks, they hunt underwater. They can take down fishes, so they can bite underwater very well.
Okay. This is a very interesting question from Anil. How to identify if snakes are fighting or mating?
Okay, so if you see two snakes out in the open, combating each other with no contact in their tail, no contact in their cloaca, it's the best way to identify whether the snake is fighting or mating. Because I think all of us are adult here, because if someone is making love, they will do it in privacy. They will not be out in open. So snakes mate in privacy, but they fight in open.
Okay. Ashu is asking, if you see a snake close by and if you stand still, will a snake go past you?
In most of the cases, it does. And depends upon the situation and the time. If we are unlucky, then we are bitten by a snake from a long distance also. But if we are lucky and if we are still, it will still prevent snake bites.
All right. Okay, if snakes releases venom in every bite?
They do, but depends upon the age of the snake. If the snake is young, out of fear, it will release all of its venom in every bite. But in adults, they tend to give dry bites, where the adults will give a mock charge, and they do it just to frighten the threat. But there are chances that they can leave venom, and they can leave venom in every bite.
Okay, next question is, when are snakes most active? What time of the day? And do all snakes bite?
All snakes do bite, whether they are big or small in size. But snakes are mostly active during dusk and dawn, because that is the time when the climate, like when the environment is changing, the temperature is changing. That is the best time they will do movement. And
okay.
Depends upon the nature of the snake, whether the snake is diurnal or nocturnal.
Okay, so once the snake is rescued, how it is decided where to leave it back to nature?
Okay, so this is again a tricky question, and if you ask me on a personal basis, I rescue a snake from a society and I quickly release it right out of the society in the nearby greenery, because that is the best thing to save the snake. But if we follow the protocols, the safety measures and the protocols, we have to rescue and release the snake under forest officials' observation. So it can be like a kilometer away, or can be 5 kilometers away, or can be 20 kilometers away. So it depends upon from area to area, and also depends upon the protocol which has been followed.
All right. What attracts snakes into the backyard or house?
Okay, the hiding place and the prey base, both will attract.
All
right, did you get it? Hello?
Yeah. So one more question. The juvenile snake's venom is highly toxic. So someone is just making this statement. You can just talk on this.
Yeah. So the venom will act very similar to the venom of an adult, but juveniles are new with the weapon. So when they are scared, they tend to release all in one go. whereas the adults will give bite and release only the venom, only the quantity of venom which can take down their prey or predator. But the juveniles will give out all the venom in once.
Okay, so last couple of questions we'll take. So one is, do snakes communicate between them?
They do with the means of pheromones. They cannot speak,
Yeah.
but they can pass on pheromones, give message, indirect signals.
Okay, so one question is, why only king cobras make nest?
Okay, so not all snakes will show parental care, and this is not a complete parental care in case of king cobras. Even pythons are tend to stay back with their egg, and king cobras have to make a nest because the incubation is not done on its own. So the snake has to stay with the eggs and maintain the temperature in the nest to incubate the eggs. So if this king cobra fails to do that, the egg will be spoiled. So they make nest, and it's the only snake in the world which makes nest.
Okay, so can we identify between male and female snakes? Is it
we can
possible?
identify we can identify So there are a couple of ways. Again, handling is needed. Some people, experienced people, they do see a snake and can identify it by looking at its size. When it comes to vipers, in vipers the females are usually larger in size than compared to the male. And when we see elapides like cobras and kraits, the males are larger in size compared to the females. And another method is like inserting a straw-like thing into the anus. Uh, but this can be painful for the snake, and lot of experience is needed. And by looking at the bulge of the tail, so snakes have hemipenis, where is like they have two penis, and when you see the tail, it's more fluffy than the females. It's more stocky than the females. So in this case, we can identify, but again, it will need lot of practice.
Okay, so we still have two, three questions more.
No problem.
One is, does snake color get lighter as compared by its age?
Uh, it can fade off. It can fade off, but the moment snake shed its skin, the molt, the new scales will be shiny, and it will again go dull by its age, and again it will molt, and new scales will be seen.
Okay, so someone is asking about the best tool to rescue a snake and whether the snake catcher joystick is the best.
Okay, never use a tongue. It's always suggestive to use a hook instead of tongue, because if you use a tongue and if you are unaware, we are tend to break the ribs of the snake by grabbing it. So using a hook is always suggested when you are rescuing snake.
Okay, can a snake die from venom of some other snake species?
It is likely they die, but species of same two snakes of same species, they will never fight using their venom. They will always show combat, overpowering each other. But it is applicable for species of different snakes of different species. For example, if a Russell's viper and a krait is seen, so a krait is likely to take down a Russell's viper and feed on it. So I think venom do work. I'm not aware about it, but venom does work.
Okay, the last question. If keeping anti-venom with us possible while wandering in forest or snake habitat areas?
Not at all, because in India we actually have anti-venoms available in government hospitals, and some nowadays we do have private hospitals having anti-venom, but we are not allowed to keep the anti-venom. We need special permissions, and we are not allowed to keep it for our personal use, because eventually we will need a doctor to inject it. So there's no point in looking for anti-venom where we cannot use it on ourselves.
Okay. One more question from my side. In the market, there's a suction pump available, which is generally called as a snake bite kit or something. So
Yeah.
is it recommended?
Wait. I'll be back. Wait. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so this kind of kit is available in the market, and it has a suction pump in it. So it will work, but it won't work always. Depends upon the bite area. So if I'm bitten somewhere here, and if I use it, keep it till I reach to the hospital. So I'm not sure whether it will work or it won't, but it will actually mentally help us that, oh, the suction is working, and it will keep us strong till we reach the hospital. And I have read about this, that it works. It will create a pressure and it won't let the venom spread, but I'm not sure about it. I still have it with me.
Okay. Thank you so much, Yogesh. Thank you for patiently answering all the questions. They were very, very helpful. And so I would like to inform everyone that we have recorded this session and it will be available on a YouTube channel. We'll also share it on our WhatsApp group. And if you still have any questions, Yogesh, do drop your email ID on the WhatsApp group. So anyone wants to ask you a question, they can write to you. And the details about our NGO and SAR will be again shared on the WhatsApp group, so you can go through it. Also, the helpline numbers which Yogesh shared can be posted on the WhatsApp group.
Surely.
Yes. Yeah. So, and there are a lot of congratulation messages to you. All of them are wishing you congratulations for giving such informative. So you can just thank them.
Thanks a lot. Actually, I was tired talking. After a long time.
Yeah, but it was a very, very important topic, and I think you covered all the aspects of it. Yeah.
And I think I must have missed out some of them because I have a very bad throat right now, and my speech wasn't that clear. But maybe next time I'll do better.
No, it wasn't noticeable at all. So yeah, thank you so much for giving your time. I request everyone to go back to our WhatsApp group for further details.
Thanks a lot.